Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, and we invite you as part of the Auto Show for 2017 for Family Day to join two astute car guys, Dave Renninger and Alan Gelman from Dave's Corner Garage, heard every weekend on Sirius XM Channel 167. Here's Dave Renninger and Alan Gelman.
Now, Jim Matthews, you told me once, if you keep a car for more than 4 years, buy it. If you keep it for less than 4 years, lease it. Let's talk about that.
Well, it was actually 6 years.
Oh.
And the reason being...
That was 2 years ago.
The reason being is if you want a car for 4 years or less, you should definitely be leasing the car. And in the end, if you look at all the pricing of all these new cars out here, they're all very expensive. The cheapest car new car you can see here is in and around $19,000, $20,000.
Right.
An average car today is around $30,000, $35,000. If a car is that much money and you want to trade it in and change it every 3 to 4 years, you're best to be leasing the car. You're essentially paying for the usage of the car. If you are happy to just drive a car for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, then for sure you buy the car, you take the manufacturer's long-term financing, and their long-term financing is anywhere from 0 to 1%, and you take advantage of for the 6, 7, sometimes 8 years that they're allowing. What you must remember though is if you are financing that vehicle for that period of time, and let's say you get in an accident, well, all of a sudden the vehicle now has been depreciated as a result of the accident. So in other words, it won't have the same value at the end, and there could be long-term ramifications. If you were leasing that vehicle and it was repaired, you simply, at the end of the lease, give the vehicle back, and there's no harm and no depreciation ramifications.
So I just want to stop you. So that's the way it is.
That is the way it is.
Because I know for a fact that, so often now everybody goes to CarProof or Carfax, and they're looking for a damage report. And the minute they see the damage report, they depreciate that much money, in other words, whatever the cost of the repair was, from the value of the car. And people get whacked a lot of times.
Yeah,
but you're saying if
it's 15-20%.
But if it's leased and it's fixed
leased,
properly,
you don't get hurt.
Okay.
All I'm suggesting though is when you're making buying decisions, people often just look at the monthly payment as the buying decision, and I want to just own the car. Ooh, I want an asset. Well, if your house that you were buying for $500,000 was going to be worth $200,000 in 5 years, would you buy that house? No. So why are you buying a $40,000 car that's going to be worth $5,000 in 8 years?
So that's an important thing to look up. As a matter of fact, Subaru just won the award for best residual value.
Yep.
So residual value is an important thing to look at.
If you are buying with the intent of trading it in. Okay. If you're buying it and plan on keeping the car for 10 years, it doesn't matter what it's worth. Doesn't matter what its resale value.
But the residual value is going to reflect on the monthly as well, would it not?
Only on a lease, but that's only after 4 years.
Now, there is insurance you can buy for the damage of the car or the wear on the car.
Okay, there's two types of insurance.
Yes.
So the one that you're talking about is included, there's what it's called gap insurance.
Okay.
So that's included on all lease vehicles. And the gap insurance is if you write off the car during the term that you have the lease, that the insurance picks up the difference between what is owed and what the car is worth.
Okay.
If you own the car and are financing it, you should buy a gap insurance, or you have the option to buy it, because if you write off the car, you are still responsible for the difference between what is owed, even though there's no car left.
To the finance company.
Again, another drawback against buying and taking long-term financing.
Okay.
So there's many different ways, but bottom line with LeaseBusters, we offer a service that helps people get into and out of vehicle leases. And really, what that's all about is, if you don't want to lease a new car, you come to us and you take over an existing lease. If you want to lease a new car and you want to get out, you hire us to get out of that car.
And even if I want a car for a short term, I come to a company like to you, right?
Big area where it satisfies all different needs, less than 12 months, between 12 and 24 months. There's just all kinds of different areas where we satisfy.
Exactly, but people have to know you're not just renting the car. You are going on the hook, so you're going to be essentially like buying it and then financing it.
But you're off the hook when you sell the lease.
Correct. So once you have found someone to take over your lease, the whole process becomes very similar to a new car lease. It goes to a new car dealership. It goes through their financial services office. They do a credit application. It's approved by the leasing company. So once the original lessee signed off and the new lessee signed on, it becomes the full responsibility of the new lessee or the assignee. And one last thing, with respect to at the end of the lease, because most people get worried about, well, geez, at the end of the car lease, I'm worried I'm going to get nicked by the end of lease assessment, excess wear and tear. Most leases today are now being bought with excess wear and tear insurance, and that picks up between $2,500 to $5,000 worth of excess wear and tear damage. It's almost a must that you have that just for the peace of mind. Now,
it doesn't take
so
much.
It's definitely a walkaway lease.
Well, it always is a walkaway.
Yeah.
But you got a perfect example because $1,000 is eat up just for tires.
Yeah.
And you have a couple dents on the car.
Well, not if there's these
another
new
couple
Chinese
$1,000.
tires.
Well,
that
they don't
doesn't
allow
have to be
it.
$1,000.
Jim from LeaseBusters, here's a question for you. What are the charges for me to use your service?
Well, there's a couple of different charges that we levy on customers. Firstly, if you're looking to take over a lease, the charge is zero. So in other words, so people who are looking to take over, which basically are 90% of our visitors, and we have close to 200,000 people that visit leasebusters.com every month, and the majority of those people are actually buyers. They're people looking to lease a vehicle. Now, clearly, they're not all going to take over a lease. We don't have that much inventory.
Right.
So most of the people use our site as a research tool to find out what the true market value of certain vehicles and their leases are. If you're looking to get out of your lease, we charge a one-time fee of $295, and that fee is only levied once your vehicle has passed our assessment. So in other words, if your vehicle's pricing or your kilometers or the condition does not pass our requirements, we will not post the car. So with all due respect to the fine folks at Auto Trader who will post your car, and that's what they do, they're a classified portal. LeaseBusters.com is not a classified used vehicle portal. We're an actual site. We're a marketplace of leased vehicles that are vetted and that are properly priced within the marketplace, and we ensure that there's full disclosure. Our OMVIC friend will like that part, that there's full disclosure in terms of what you're getting. If the vehicle's been hit, the lessee discloses it. And in fact, most of the manufacturers, leasing companies, will insist on a car-proof report, and often they'll run it themselves prior to approving the lease takeover. So everything's done really, really well in terms of that. But with respect to the cost, our $295 cost is a heck of a lot less than the difference is when you consider taking your vehicle back and asking the dealer who originally leased the vehicle what it would cost. And typically, the average pricing of that is between $8,000 and $10,000 to simply return your leased vehicle.
Wow, because you lose the depreciation.
Well, it's depreciation versus the contract value, because you're responsible to pay the difference between what is owed, because all a lease contract is a finance agreement with a balloon payment.
Yeah.
So it's the amount that's owed less what the car's wholesale value is, and typically it's $8,000 to $10,000.
Now, you started a new system called IPO, which is Virgin Cars.
Yeah. So IPO is through our Finance Busters property, and IPO is integrity pre-owned vehicles, and those are vehicles that have never been in an accident and are one-owner cars. So it's a little bit of a niche that we're starting for consumers to visit prior to looking at the bigger sites like Auto Trader or Wheels.ca or AutoCatch. And what it does is, and once it gains a little bit more popularity, it'll just be what we refer to as the first point of sale. The challenge that we're having, which is quite interesting, is that we're having a very difficult time engaging private sellers in listing their vehicles. And private sellers don't want to list their vehicles because it's very, very difficult in terms of showing the vehicle. There's accusations of curbsiding, and lots of people would prefer today just to buy from the new car dealer or an A-level used car operation. And I agree with that too. But there's still an area where we got to be able to help as well. As you know, I'm a big believer in new cars. Love the auto show, and to access any of these new cars financially, the best way is to lease it, and it's safe and it's easy, and it's lots of fun.
You know, you said to me once, if you lease a car for 10 years, you got 3 new cars in that period of time.
What I said was if you owned a car for 10 years,
yeah,
and it's worth 0 at the end, because
right,
really 10, 11-year-old cars worth 0, well, really what you've done is leased the car for 120 months. In that time frame, you could have leased 3 or 4 new cars at not a whole lot more money.
Right, new technology, new warranty, new everything.
Exactly.
It's amazing how new cars drop in value in the first 18 months. They just, like a stone.
Well, they have to drop in value because if a brand new car is $30,000, and let's say that's a 2017 car, and you're in the market for, in that range, if you found a 2016 used car, well, what would you expect to pay? If you get a brand new one for 30,
after the bump off the curve,
no, but
35% less.
As per the market, what would you consider a good deal? Well, I'd consider if I get a new one for 30, I would pay probably $25,000 for a 1-year-old car. So once you then, when you back off a little bit of the profit for the dealer and so forth, so really the wholesale becomes $23,000. So brand new's 30, 1-year-old's 23. That's your first year depreciation. So who creates that? The market does.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, if I can get a brand new one for 30, I want to use one for 25.
And you avoid a lot of the taxes that are built into the sale.
Oh, for sure. Like taxes is just a
But again, as Jimmy said earlier, you are now you'll be the owner of the car. So you do want to make a check for condition, make sure it hasn't been in a big accident, and that all those services have been up to date.